Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Kearney, and I'm going to be your host today. This is the Cvent presentation titled In-Person Solutions, a How-To. A bit of housekeeping details. Everyone is on mute to minimize background noise. Please use the chat and Q&A to submit questions as we go throughout the presentation today. A little bit about myself. I've been with Cvent for about 11 years now. I actually got my start in events when I was a little kid. My mom was a treasurer at a nonprofit for 13 years, and I was cheap labor. She used to bribe me with pizza and quarters for video games, and I would help set up, tear down, lick envelopes, all that fun stuff for her fundraising events. I then went on to study hospitality management and worked in the hospitality industry for a few years before some friends lured me over to Cvent. So why don't we dive in? For those of you that are not familiar with Cvent, we were actually founded in 1999 by Reggie Agarwal. He was actually a lawyer at the time of founding Cvent, and he was involved in some events through a professional networking group, and they were doing everything on Excel spreadsheets and sticky notes. So he had the idea to move it to online registration, and ultimately that evolved into Cvent. Fast forward to modern day, and we're about 4,400 employees worldwide. Cvent is best known for our complete end-to-end event management platform. Really, what we've kind of built over the past 22 years is a one-stop shop for event planners to manage their event from beginning to end. Today, we're really going to focus on a subset of the specific features in Cvent, focused on some of those day of solutions, really when someone is participating in your event. And if we look at this from the attendee perspective, we're really going to pick things up after someone has registered for the event. And the reason we're starting there is because often there's a pretty big lull from when someone signs up to when they show up to the event. And there's, I think, a good opportunity to engage with attendees during that period of time. So that's where we're going to pick things up, starting off with post registration. So we're going to assume that someone has just registered for the event. And now, what do we do next? Well, one great resource that these attendees will have access to is something called the Attendee Hub. And this is a web-based as well as a mobile-based solution that provides a variety of different features. One of the core functions of this is being able to access the event agenda and add sessions to an individual's agenda. So if I'm an attendee, often I might sign up for an event and the agenda might not be ready yet. That might get published 2 or 3 months later. So for you, the event organizer, you have the ability to, send a notification back to the attendees, prompt them to log into the Attendee Hub, and build out those personalized agendas showcasing different sessions at different times, allowing attendees to search based on topic or speaker and a variety of ways to find what they're looking for. While they're in the Attendee Hub, it is a great opportunity for these, future attendees to see what sponsors and vendors and exhibitors are going to be participating in the event. And if it's an internal event, you can showcase different resources or internal departments that'll be participating in the event. Great way to get that engagement started early. I also think we don't have to wait for the event to take place to drive attendee engagement. So you can enable an attendee list. Attendees can opt in, search for individuals they want to connect with, send messages, and even start to schedule appointments to help fill up that schedule when they're showing up to the event. For appointments, this can take a lot of different shapes and sizes. It's not just attendee to attendee. It can be attendee to sponsor, attendee to exhibitor, or even if you're bringing clients and prospective customers to your event, the ability for your sales team or your customer success team to meet with those customers. Really, the value here for the organizer is you get to control this whole experience. The idea is that you can decide when these appointments can take place, where they can take place, and who can schedule them. So a lot of functionality that you can control so that attendees are not booking meetings during your keynote or other critical parts of the event. Since I mentioned sponsors and exhibitors, I think it's important to call out Cvent's exhibitor management portal. This is where you can create a to-do list for those vendors and sponsors. They can register their booth staff, they can manage appointments. They're also able to get access to things like lead capture if you're providing that for your event, and even access analytics and leads that they've gathered during the event. So it really becomes their portal to manage their experience at the event And they're able to also build out that profile that shows up on the web version as well as the mobile app version of Attendee Hub. In terms of lead capture, I think for some of you, this is a really important resource that you either provide to those sponsors and vendors so they can track who they're talking to, or if you're like Cvent and you host a customer conference, you want to arm your team participating in the event with a good way to track customer interaction. So the idea is that this is a mobile app that can be downloaded. It can scan badges as well as business cards. It gives the person scanning the ability to rate the lead, insert customized notes, and everyone that's using it can build their own customization around the qualification questions they're asking. So they're capturing really the right information that's relevant to them as a sponsor or an exhibitor. It also gives people the opportunity to send collateral right from their phone to the person they were just talking to. So Mark can get documents from me right after we've had a conversation. Then after the event, it's easy to reconcile all of these leads and download them and then get them over to the sales and marketing team who kind of takes the next steps after the event. So a great resource for those vendors and sponsors, as well as maybe some of your staff that are participating in the event. So these are some of the things that we can start to engage with before the event on the attendee side, as well as the host and sponsor exhibitor side. Now we need to start thinking of the big day, right? The big day is upon us. What happens first and foremost? For some of you, we're still needing to manage health requirements and enforce specific policies related to vaccines and health screenings and testing verification. So we have something called Cvent Health Check. It allows you to do the vaccine verifications, daily health screenings, as well as the ability for someone to submit a test, clearing them to participate in the event. So a great resource can be used independently of all the other Cvent solutions and used all by itself if that's a need for just a specific event. Now, as we get into the portion of where someone is kind of walking through the door, we start to talk more about something called Cvent on Arrival. This is Cvent's app that really focuses on check-in, on-site badge printing, and session attendance tracking. So it really allows us to kind of capture that footprint of when our attendees are on site. And we can capture that footprint in a couple of different ways. So here you'll notice someone scanning a badge, as well as on the right-hand side of the screen, a passive tracking through RFID and NFC. And in my experience, one of the best ways to kind of see how on arrival works is to kind of see it at live events. So here I'm going to tee up a nice video for everyone to check out some events that are using on arrival and what that experience looks like. So here I'll take it away with the video. I love that video. I think it does a really good job of highlighting all the different capabilities of Cvent on arrival and some of our on-site badging and attendance tracking tools. That's really designed for the planner. And I think it does really focus on creating that great first impression for attendees. The other thing that I think can make a big first impression is your event app. And when someone goes to participate in your event, offering them a digital guide that shows them the sessions that are happening, shows them their personalized schedule, also enables them to really be immersed in the experience. So this is something that I think for a lot of you has become a mission critical part of your event. And for attendees, it really becomes their go-to resource when they're trying to figure out where they need to be at any given time. And our app allows them to see what's happening now in the event, as well as the sessions that they pre-registered for. You can also enable things like showing attendees if sessions are full so they don't try and go to a session they haven't registered for that's at capacity, as well as locking down the schedules to make sure that attendees are participating in the things that they're supposed to. So I think that personalized schedule component has become more and more important for planners and attendees over the years. The app is also really the tip of the spear when we think about audience engagement. It enables things like live Q&A and polling, and if you're engaging with a digital audience, you might be enabling something like a session chat. It's a great way to get the audience participating in a session and feeling deeply connected with the speaker and the content. I think this is something that many of us consider table stakes and a core part of a mobile app, and that's something that we've been baking into our apps for many years now. The other area that I think is critical for attendee engagement is gamification. And one of the challenges historically with gamification, it was very limited in terms of scope and what you could customize. So in Cvent's event app, we really looked at how can we make gamification customizable for the event organizer to be able to turn on specific parts of the game that are relevant or focus on specific attendee behaviors that drive the appropriate participation in the event, that drives value for the attendee, the event host, as well as the sponsors and exhibitors are there. And that's really what our design team was able to accomplish. Our gamification tool enables planners to be able to really customize their game down to a very granular level. And then on the attendee side, really feel like they're getting some return on investment by participating in the game, not only by seeing their name on the leaderboard, but also really focusing on what matters to that audience. The last piece that I'm going to hit on here as it relates to the app that I think is a core functionality and a key part of the event experience is keeping attendees informed through push notifications and announcements. And with our event app, you have the ability to send notifications either in a pre-scheduled format, knowing that, hey, breakfast is going to be at 9 a.m. So every day I want to send a notification at 8:30, letting people know breakfast is about to start. Or in the scenario where you need to make an adjustment on the fly. The CEO's speech is running long, we're going to push everything back 15 minutes. Or, hey, everyone, there's bad weather outside, we're going to move the networking and happy hour inside. Being able to instantly notify everyone of a change at the event, I think has become something that most planners really lean on and provides a much better experience for the attendees. So now that we've participated in the event, we need to think about what happens after the event. So what is kind of the next steps as people are leaving the event and in the subsequent weeks? And I think one of the first things that most planners look for attendees to do is provide feedback, whether it's session level feedback, rating speakers and content, or event level feedback. What do you think of the food, the property, the format? So Cvent has a baked-in survey tool that can live right within the mobile app, so I can rate sessions on the fly as I'm sitting in them, or I can fill out a comprehensive survey online that I receive via email. If I'm filling it out partially in one place and in the other, I'm not going to have to do duplicative work. I also really think our survey tool is intuitive in the sense that it only surveys me on the things that I actually participated in as part of the event. So I might not see 50 session surveys if I only went to 10. I think attendees are also expecting content to be available on demand in this kind of post-pandemic era we're seeing with events. Many of us spent way too much time watching Netflix and sitting on our couch watching content in this type of format or browsing YouTube for the latest recipes. So this is something that I think is now becoming ingrained in the culture of participating in an event is if I can't be in 3 sessions at once, I should have the ability to go back and watch the content I couldn't access. Or if a session was chock full of insight and content, I should be able to go back and revisit that, which is a great part of the attendee experience. And one of the, I think, most positive things that came from a lot of events moving virtual is really driving this behavior. The other thing that I like about this is for the organizer, you can measure that post-event engagement. So which attendees are coming back and watching what content and for how long. So I think it's a good measure of which content really resonated and allows you to double down next year on the same content or with the same speakers. We also typically need to measure the event success, and this could mean a variety of different things depending upon the type of event you're running and the format and the audience. Cvent is going to arm our clients and the planners with a long list of reports that you can customize and manipulate to see the data sets that are important to you in real time. You also have the ability to share this information with key stakeholders in password protected portals. So really serving up that information to your decision makers in an efficient way. So long gone are the days of creating massive Excel spreadsheets and emailing them every Friday. And as we think about reports and kind of day of experience and on-site solutions, one report really sticks out to me is kind of understanding what attendees are doing while they're at the event. I think for many attendees, they really vote with their feet, meaning that they show you what they're interested in by the sessions they attend, the things that they participate in, the booths that they visit. And by tracking all of this and creating a kind of digital footprint of the event, you now have a really clear profile of your different attendees, understanding what they like, what wasn't interesting to them. And this allows you to engage with them on a much deeper level. So if it's a client or a prospect, you can be much more tailored with your post event follow up, whether it's through sales or through marketing. And if it's your employees, you can understand what really is motivating them and exciting them and how to build a closer relationship. So I think there's a really powerful aspect to understanding this and tracking that data. Then we can also couple this with something called engagement scoring. So this is a feature in Cvent that allows event organizers to be able to build their own template for scoring attendee engagement. So you can determine what actions are generating an engagement score and if there's certain things that you want to prioritize over others. The part that's interesting about this is I can look at it on an individual level. I can also look at a company level. So if I'm hosting an event for my customers, I can see which customers and company wide were most engaged during the event. So I think there's a long list of benefits here to be able to understand this data and then take it to other places and make use of it. And this is where Cvent's integrations come in handy because for many of you, the data captured in Cvent is not the final resting place. It needs to move on to another system of record, whether it's a marketing automation tool, a CRM, or some other system where event data becomes valuable. And so Cvent has a long list of integrations off the shelf that allow you to really make the most of these events and truly measure that return on investment. So everyone, I want to keep it short and sweet today. As we're wrapping up, I think it's important to distinguish where Cvent differentiates ourselves within the market. I think first and foremost, we're tremendously experienced. We've been doing this for more than 22 years, have worked on millions of events. And Cvent as a company puts on conferences for thousands of people all the way down to intimate 25-person meetings. So in many ways, we practice what we preach and we're experienced not only supporting our customers, but running the events ourselves. I also think it's noteworthy that we have the true end-to-end platform. Many systems you see out there are point solutions or are platform in name only. They don't actually connect all the dots for the full life cycle of the event. And I think this is more important than ever because our time is precious as planners. Many people are short staffed and being required to do more with less. On the attendee side, I think there's a very high expectation of a seamless experience. And with cobbling together 10, 15 different systems, it's really hard to create that attendee experience they're looking for. So Cvent and being one platform to help with everything really helps deliver that great guest experience that I know all of you are looking for. The other area that I think is critical here is that web and mobile are included. And what I mean here is that attendees can jump back and forth between a web experience and a mobile experience, depending upon when the event is taking place. Like, is it now or is it a couple weeks from now? Also, if your event needs to change, you need to move from in-person to virtual. We have got that covered all in one place. So really covering all the bases there for our planners and having those contingency plans. For many of you, measuring ROI is incredibly important. So, what was the successes from the event? Where are the areas of improvement? Cvent really empowers our planners to find that data and share with the key stakeholders to make your events more meaningful and successful as time goes on. Sponsors and exhibitors can be a critical part of your event infrastructure. For many of you, this is a large revenue stream. So the idea is, how do we support these partners and sponsors, give them a great guest experience, enable them to capture a lot of leads and get a lot of value, but also capture in a way that's tangible. So I can report on it and provide a sponsor and exhibitor a clear demonstrated value that my event provided to them. And I think that's where a lot of planners struggle, is how do I demonstrate that value in a clear way? And last but certainly not least, I think one of our biggest differentiators is our world-class support. It's an award-winning team of over 1,000 professionals, and they're there to help not only the day-to-day support, but also the consultative, strategic support, how to get the most out of the system, what other planners are doing, kind of what are the best practices we're hearing across our client services team, and being able to bubble that up to planners that are using Cvent for the first time, or maybe haven't used Cvent in a while, or use Cvent all the time. And this is one of those areas that I think is a real differentiator. So everyone, really the next steps here are going to be, if you're interested in learning more or have specific questions, please continue to post in the Q&A in the chat. If you want to talk to someone today, please let me know. Happy to have someone reach out. You will receive an email with access to watch this on demand, as well as a survey. So we'd love to get your thoughts and feedback. For those of you that need to leave, thank you. We really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully today was insightful, gave you some ideas about how to approach your events in the future. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the time. I'm going to stick around, answer some questions, make sure that all the questions I see here in the chat are addressed. Really appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, everyone. You might have noticed that my background and my shirt changed. Here at Cvent, we've invented the technology to transport someone from one place to another. All jokes aside, I actually had some last minute travel come up. I'm actually at Cvent's headquarters this week taking some meetings. So we pre-recorded some of this content, knowing that I might not be able to do it live. But here I am doing Q&A, some great questions in the chat. So I want to make sure I address those. Appreciate everyone, staying engaged, posting in the chat and the Q&A throughout the presentation. So let me pull up these questions here and I'll go about answering them to my best ability. So for an exhibitor registration perspective, how in-depth is the Cvent software? Are there opportunities for exhibitors to submit insurance forms? So I look at this from two different angles. One is first, when they go to sign up. So if you need to have them register and say, hey, I want to be an exhibitor participating, you can do that in Cvent or outside of Cvent and then bring those confirmed organizations in. And then when they get in as a confirmed exhibitor, you also have the ability to create a to-do list with specific tasks associated with things like submitting insurance forms, signing paperwork, registering the booth staff, a long list of things that I think most event organizers are asking attendees sponsors and vendors to participate. So we do have quite a robust exhibitor management portal that is more than just booth staff registration. It's some of the other logistics and kind of to-do list items that are often associated with that as well. So hopefully that answers that particular question. Let me know if there's a follow-up to that. Next question I see here is a good one. Are there payment options for the event customizable? For example, if we want the ability to allow users to pay with credits they have with the company versus having to pay with a credit card. Jocelyn, great question. And the answer is absolutely. So within Cvent, when you're configuring an event, you have the ability to decide what payment methods you want to offer to the whole event or subsets of individuals within the event. So for example, customers might see something different than prospects, just one option there. And the idea is you can create offline payment options that maybe are things like check or purchase order or these other things, as well as maybe, hey, you have an account credit or bill it to my account. And then you can then create a digital record of that. And then in Cvent, you have the ability to mark people as paid for some of these offline methods and track some of that kind of back and forth that would happen there with notes or how they paid, other things like that. So there are some sophisticated ways to track that. So there's hopefully those questions. Let's see here. I think the next one I see here is what are customization options or what game customization is available. It seems like a tool to get familiar with the app features, what other ways it can be used. Yeah, so the game can be a lot of different things. There's actually 29 different actions in Cvent that you can leverage to bring into the game. So I see it used for a couple of things. One, first and foremost, driving the right attendee behavior, not only within the application, but also pushing attendees to participate in the event in the way that you would like them to. So I think that is a kind of an interesting way to approach it is, hey, I want attendees to meet with sponsors, exhibitors, to attend these sessions, to network with each other, to post a picture of XYZ. There's a long list of ways that you can manipulate. So as you're thinking about gamification in your event, it really boils down to what behavior are you looking to drive with your attendees based on the value you want to provide to them and the data that you want to collect as the event host. So hopefully that answers. I know that was kind of vague, but there's a long list of things. Happy to go in more detail, maybe in a separate call there. Another question here from Jim that I think is a good one. I'm interested in internal events, only internal employees. So lead features are not relevant. Is there available best practices on hosting an internal event? Absolutely, Jim. A big percentage of our customers are using Cvent for these internal events, and it shifts away from lead generation and revenue generation to, I think, the biggest focus now for employers hosting events for their employees is attendee engagement. So that's where that engagement scoring feature is really interesting because we can understand how our employees are participating in an event and was that event worth the investment? Are the attendees there taking full advantage of what you're creating for them, whether it's the content or the networking or the other different areas. So Cvent as a company does a lot of internal events, and that's what we're typically looking at is, how engaged were the participants, and then also what type of feedback did we get from them to validate some of the data that was captured. So this could be things like sales kickoff, company-wides, long list of different internal events, even maybe some trainings that I think something like Cvent can make a very profound impact compared to maybe doing it the old school way of Excel spreadsheets on some of the other options that are out there. So Jim, hopefully that gave you some ideas. Certainly happy to share some other examples as well if you want to see what maybe some of your peers have done for some of their internal events. All right, so those were the big questions I saw there. It looks like the ones I hadn't addressed. We have posted in the chat some of the upcoming webinars that we're hosting. I think there's a couple really interesting topics throughout the month of July, and I know July for some of you is a little bit slower month where you can gather your thoughts, think about strategy for the second half of the year. So there's some really great topics we're really excited about here at Cvent. So definitely check those out. And if it's not in your purview, feel free to forward along to colleagues. So everyone, really appreciate the time. Today was meant to be an introduction. If you want more specific information or you want to have a more detailed conversation about what you're looking for or specific questions about your events, please post in the chat. I'm really happy to jump on another call. So thank you so much. And it looks like there's another couple of questions coming in. But yeah, for those that have to leave, thank you so much. All right, so there was a question. Can you elaborate on the self-service module for different booths, sponsors, and how robust would you say the features are for these tied to the mobile app scanning? Are the scan outputs customizable? So the way it works is when I go in as a vendor to access lead capture, I actually have the ability to customize really what information I'm capturing during that scan. So there's some kind of baseline fields we're going to capture, like name, title, email, that sort of stuff. And the event host also can dictate what information they want their vendors to be able to access. But then when the vendor is doing the setup of their lead capture, they could say, hey, here are 5 questions I want my sales reps or my team on site to answer. And it can be free text, it can be multiple choice, it can be all sorts of different formats. So this is one of the things I really like about the Cvent lead capture solution is the ability to customize for each vendor on your floor. So they're getting information that's important and impactful to them instead of just contact information with no context. So I think that's one of those things that, to me, having used lots of lead capture in my 11 years in the events industry, I found Cvent to really help us to get the right information. And that really helps us to ultimately qualify these conversations and get them routed to the appropriate people for post-event follow-up.
And then I'm listing out everything that the main company is using. And so they have to enter their voice. Can I say that this is it is, right?
And target, well, you can actually click those links there.
And I don't see any other questions that have been submitted, but I'll stick around for maybe another 10, 15 minutes to give people an opportunity to ask more questions if you have them. So thank you, everyone. Once again, really appreciate it. Appreciate the engagement as well. Makes this very fun for me.
But yeah,